exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not.
Whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Happy Friday show, one and all. Thank you for joining us on this Friday. A little bit of music because we're going to have a very fun show today. I was listening to Mark Thompson's show, and I know that he teased that I'm going to be tasting Pilk. I have all the makings right here next to Matthew, right there. Anybody in the comments know what Pilk is? You can tell. It's right here. Pepsi and milk. Now, this is not a new thing, my friends. When Kim comes over, I'm going to wait till she's here for our Friday food segment because we're trying this new segment. I like it. It's fun. But Pilk is Pepsi and milk, and it's supposed to be delicious. I have found articles talking about this all the way back to 2014, and I'm sure, and actually I have a story that I read in an article that goes back even farther than that. So I'll be given a taste test live on the show, and I'll tell you if it's any good or not. I'm thinking it's going to be okay, but it sounds gross. All right, while we're thinking about it, let's first say thank you to our exclusive founding sponsor, the one, the only, Steve Moskowitz, everybody. Steve Moskowitz is your tax guy. If you have any tax problems, just give him a call. AAA Tax Deal, MoskowitzLLP.com. He's been doing this new thing called Ask the Tax Man. Actually, I think he was saying he did that at the beginning of his career, and he's been continuing to do it where he answers people's basic tax problems and questions. And so he's got these little videos. And so I'll be playing some of those, during our shows. And of course, he comes on live with us to tell us about ERC and how he can help you out as we head towards the end of the year. And there's things you could do to help plan for taxes. Let's see what else we have coming up on the show. Well, first, please click the thumbs up. We have to do our exercises. I always do this with you guys in the morning, even though it's the afternoon. I still have to get out of that habit of the fact of talking to you guys any day. I mean, it could be morning. Let me fix my hair. I just got all kinds. I'm a mess today, I think. Running around all kinds of crazy, but please click the thumbs up, do your thumb exercises, click the thumbs up button to support the show. Of course, the super chat is live. If you're just joining us and you've never done it before, it's the $ right under the live chat community box. And you can throw us some bucks. I'll read your comment. We have some people that support the show every single day, and I'll give you some shouts out throughout the show right here. And then the biggest thing is to become a monthly subscriber to the show. I would love it. It would just help us out so much. Just simply go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com, and the Patreon link is right there, and you can become a monthly subscriber. On that note, I think I'm going to get into it next hour. I received an email through the Patreon from someone who was telling me why they can no longer support my show. And so I'll read it to you, and I'm just going to kind of tease it, but I'm going to also say this. I appreciate each and every one of you that throw any sort of money. Hi, Nugget. Happy Friday. Money our way and to support the show. But I also believe, and we've said many times, that you express your opinion through the almighty dollar. And this one person really disagrees with me about something. And so we'll get into it because we're going to talk a little bit about speech and opinion and things like that. But again, if you'd still like to support the show, even if you don't agree with me all the time, which I have many people that have written me say, I don't agree with you all the time at all, but I love your humor. I like your opinions. I don't always agree. And so that's always something we welcome. And I think that that's what leads to a great show, is that we don't always agree. We will, we're going to get into in a couple of minutes, we'll get into the rail strike. Lawmakers are the biggest hypocrites ever. Not that I'm telling you anything you don't already know. Okay, everyone knows that lawmakers are hypocrites. Now, this bill that has now passed the Senate does not include the 7 days of paid sick leave that the the rail workers were asking for. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, being called out for voting against it. His state was, this one headline reads, his state was built by unions, but rejects paid leave for rail workers. I don't know if you know this. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Lawmakers get unlimited sick leave. And not only unlimited sick leave, unlimited paid sick leave. I don't believe lawmakers should have any benefits that we ourselves, because they're public servants, do not get. They should not have better health care than the average American. They should not have a better sick leave policy than the average American. They should not be in a position of not understanding what the average American is going through. And they are the biggest hypocrites. And of course, it's very upsetting that President Biden, our union president, felt that, and I understand it is up to Congress. I mean, it's the House and the Senate. He just signs the bill. They have to work it out. He wishes they did, but they didn't. They didn't include the 7 days. So let me play a little bit of sound. And I am frustrated, but this was President Biden talking about the fact that he's not giving up the fight.
And look, I know this bill doesn't have paid sick leave that these rail workers and frankly every worker in America deserves. But that fight isn't over. I didn't commit we were going to stop just because we couldn't get it in this bill that we were going to stop fighting for it. I've supported paid sick leave for a long time. I'm going to continue that fight till we succeed. And I want to thank Congress, Democrats and Republicans, for acting so quickly. I know this was a tough vote for members of both parties. It was a tough for me, but it was the right thing to do at the moment, to save jobs, to protect millions of working families from harm and disruption, and to keep supply chains stable around the holidays, and to continue the progress we've made and we will continue to see on the economy.
Yeah, I understand what he's saying. I understand that keeping the rails going, especially right now with the holidays. But I'm honestly, 365, right? I mean, it's not as if we can't have this. 40%, I was telling you guys yesterday, of long haul freight, it goes over rail. But it's disappointing, especially because, again, these lawmakers that voted against it for rail workers get the benefit themselves. Some reactions that were coming in. One person, this was Andy Levy, who hosts this political podcast called The New Abnormal. He said, I'm really upset with Joe Biden on this. His whole thing is how much he loves railroads and all this stuff. Well, then show a little love for the workers. He talks out of both sides of his mouth. I get super mad about this and just realize how bad all of this is. Another person that went viral on Twitter, and we'll talk about Elon Musk next hour as well, is she's like, people are saying, well, we can't make the rails stop. The rails need to continue going. She's like, stop them. Stop them. So we understand how important they are. Because if it's so vital, then they need to be able to be healthy and work. If they're so important, you put your money towards things that you value. And what message is he sending? That they get one personal day? That's what it came down to, one personal day out of the whole year? It's insulting. And again, these lawmakers get unlimited paid sick leave. Now, this vote that was done was separate to the legislation that would impose that 24% wage increase over 5 years. And again, that's a significant pay increase. I'm not saying it's not, but it doesn't negate the fact that these human beings don't have paid sick leave. Kim, we're talking. Hi, Kim. Happy Friday. We're talking about the rail strike, and I'm just saying how these lawmakers have unlimited paid sick leave, and they're hypocritical. How do you vote against something by saying it's too important, so we're going to block this agreement? We're not going to give you the 7 days that you're asking for. Which honestly, I mean, 2 weeks, I think should be normal for people, human beings, for a whole year. Mm-hmm. Especially given the fact that COVID, flu, it's this conflict of headlines. COVID, flu, RSV, rail yard workers or rail workers just need to keep working.
Do you want the guy running the train to be sick with the
No.
flu at the controls? Do you want that?
No, and it's
No.
just it's very upsetting. Now, again, they are getting that 24% wage increase. They're getting a $5,000 bonus. They obviously don't want to cripple the nation by allowing the strike to happen. You know who voted for this? I mean, Ted Cruz voted with Bernie Sanders to give the sick pay. When you have Ted Cruz, I think Bernie Sanders, I read somewhere the joke to Ted Cruz. He's like, I always knew you were a socialist, but they just did not have enough. They didn't have the 60 votes needed to get it passed. And it's so disappointing.
It
I
really
know
is because it's such a reasonable thing.
exactly.
It's
It's
not
sick
like they're
leave.
asking for something that's not something that is normally provided when you're a full-time employee, and especially a full-time employee that's in charge of a vehicle that could do some serious damage. I don't
Exactly.
know. It just doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. And I know that the president, I had played a clip of the president saying he's not going to give up the fight. But, it's basically like, we're going to keep fighting for you, just not this time. Well, if not now, when? I mean, right now we have you by the short and curlies. And if you're still
I
not
love
willing
when you say
to,
that.
if you're still not willing to give in now in the holiday season after COVID and the shutdowns with that, what other time are the rail workers going to have this much power to influence lawmakers? Again, who get unlimited paid sick leave.
I am
That's
outraged.
nuts. I am
am
outraged.
outraged. Somebody call Steve Moskowitz. I am
There you go.
outraged.
Well, look, so you said the magic word, Kim McAllister. And our friend is here joining us on a Friday. There he is, the man himself, tax attorney Steve Moskowitz with Moskowitz LLP. And Steve, you are just a wealth of knowledge and advice and information for people that are having any sort of tax problem.
That's right. And, we have a lot of people in the firm and in different areas. And we talk about the things that, really get attention, the ERC, because people are getting so much money, and tax planning. Everybody knows me for tax returns. But we offer so much more. We have tax planning, monthly counseling, accounting. We also have...
But not like marriage counseling. People aren't calling you up and being like...
Business and taxes.
Business counseling. Okay, there you go. Just
But
making sure.
What, Nikki? The number one problem in marriage is money.
Exactly.
So
you could
the
be
money problems, it may well fix the marriage problem.
There you go.
See that? It always comes back to money.
I love it.
And the other thing is, we even have HR services. We have a professional HR department. And what happens is this: big businesses have staffs of people that do this. Small business, they need all that, but they can't afford to have a full-time controller and a full-time HR person and a full-time this and a full-time that. So they don't have it all and they suffer for it. Instead, we basically give them this part-time service, like the part-time accounting, the part-time CFO, the part-time HR guy. And let me give you an example. Suppose you have an employer, is a good employer, and he provides a nice healthcare benefits to his clients. That's good, isn't it? Of course it is. But suppose we came in and said, you know what? We'll give you a better health plan, and no rinky-dink little company. We're talking about big, prestigious carriers. And instead of the deductible, your employees will have no deductible on the health plan. And we'll add vision care, and we'll add dental care, and we'll add life insurance, and we'll add short-term disability, and we'll earn long-term disability. Employees screaming, my God, I can't afford this. And we say, guess what? We'll give you all that for less than you're paying right now on your one health plan where employees have to pay a deductible.
Wow, that's huge.
That's just one of the things we do. We do so much stuff, and I haven't really talked about that on the air before because everybody knows me for the other stuff. But I'd like to introduce that too. That
that's
really
crazy.
Have a lot of services, so people can make a lot more money and concentrate on their business as opposed to, ignoring this and jumping in this and making a mistake on that. There's just so much we can do for you. All you have to do is call and we'll tell you about it.
Look at that. I mean, honestly, one simple phone call can not only save you money, but obviously can handle so much more than just tax services. So give Steve a call. It's AAA tax deal, MoskowitzLLP.com. That's Moskowitz LLP.com.
I think it's worth everybody to tune in just to hear that, Nikki.
I tune in just to hear myself sing it, Steve, every
Well, I'll
single
tell
day.
you, if you want a singing career, let me know and we'll talk about that.
My husband might disagree with you, but I love you anyway. Thanks, Steve.
There you go.
Thank you. Bye. All right. That's again Steve Moskowitz, 888 tax dealer Moskowitz, LLP.com. All right. So we're going to switch gears here because my ice is melting, Kim McAllister.
Okay.
And I don't know if
okay.
you've seen so Kim, let's really let everybody know. So Kim sends me this text last night. And she's like, I know that we do a Friday food segment and I'm always looking for ideas. So send them in to me. You can email me Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com. And I was actually planning on getting DoorDash, some plant-based food. I was going to do a plant-based, first time eating plant-based fast food. But then she told me about Pilk. Okay. So Pilk is Pepsi and milk. Do we have anybody in the comments that has tried this before? Look, you read in the comments while I
Okay. I saw a couple people that when I mentioned the teas said, "Oh, my grandma drinks that. It's so good. It's the best." So I've seen 2 people so far have said, "Yeah." I haven't seen anybody in your chat so far that has had Pilk or a good experience.
It doesn't sound good. Pilk sounds like something really gross. Okay, I'm going to share my screen real quickly because the reason it's in the news again is Lindsay Lohan apparently is doing ads for Pepsi. And here it is. Let's see. So here is the ad. Da-da-da. And let me play it for you. There you go.
Nice.
And then she adds the milk.
Naughty. Pepsi and milk. Pilk.
Yeah. So there you go.
Us to drink Pepsi over Christmas, like make Pepsi part of our Christmas tradition.
Okay, so so here's a picture of it, Pilk and cookies, okay? And then somebody brought up in the chat what I also read, that it was that Penny Marshall behind Laverne and Shirley. Rumor has it that Penny Marshall enjoyed it in real life and actually wrote it into Laverne's character on Laverne and Shirley. So here you go. So to create your own Pepsi, you fill a glass with ice, which I have done.
Do you add vodka? No.
Vodka and milk. Well, what is that? Is that a White Russian? White Russian?
Shake
What's
it
in
up.
White Russian? I don't know. Okay, so I'm just doing it the way. Now I have Diet Pepsi, and you want to know why I have Diet Pepsi? I was going to get regular Pepsi, but I was at the grocery store yesterday. Can I tell a quick story about how embarrassing it was at the grocery store yesterday? So I'm going, and I wanted to get some ginger beer because everybody knows I love ginger beer. And as I'm loading up my cart, you know the seat where you put the kid? The ginger beer is like this big, and it went right through the hole and exploded right at my feet. And I felt so bad. And I felt so bad I wasn't going to replace it, like, because I'd already paid, but I was like still standing in front of the thing, the checkout counter.
Yeah.
And the guy behind me is like, "Go get another one. Go get another one." And I'm like, "I don't want to leave all my stuff." And the guy's like, "Go get another one." So I got that. And then I remembered to get Pepsi. And the only Pepsi that they had was Diet Pepsi in the cooler. And I was like, you know what? Screw it.
I'm just going to go. Yeah.
Okay. So here we go. This is, I hope this
is
Pilk.
Pepsi and milk.
This is Pepsi and milk. So I'm opening up my Diet Pepsi. Try it. All right. So here we go.
See how it is.
So I'm going to fill it up halfway. It's a little carbonated.
You can't be liberal. You just got to shove it in.
I mean, how much, what? So it's pour half a cup of whole milk. Oh, I have a whole cup here. So I'm not pouring all this milk. All right. So half a cup of cold milk into, I should have brought a straw. All right. Is that half a cup?
A little more.
That's about half a cup. Okay. And then a little bit more.
Top it off with a little Pepsi.
That'll
this
stir.
is going to be good.
That'll stir it up a little bit. All right. So I'm going to give it a shot here. I got to put that milk back.
I agree, Kim Schaefer. This does sound gross.
Does it sound gross? Because a lot of people are thinking, okay, I really don't think it's going to be that bad.
Nick says, this is Nikki vomiting in 3, 2.
2. Okay, let's give it a shot. Oh, that's good. That's good.
Serious?
Oh, totally good.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you would do for Santa Pilk and cookies?
Oh, that's good. That's actually really good.
Now?
No.
Wow. Okay.
Now I'm going to burp through this whole entire show. I'm just letting you know. No, I'm trying to describe it. I don't drink a lot of soda, and so it tastes like a soda, but.
Mo says you got to put a couple scoops of vanilla ice cream, half a can of Pepsi, and a dash of milk.
It's like a root beer float, but it's not root beer. It's just Pepsi. Half the time it explodes, John Slade says. No, it's good. I'll drink it the rest of the show. It's anonymous. It's not gross. I mean, now tell me the difference. Honestly, all you that are saying it's gross, what's the difference between a root beer float? Soda and vanilla ice cream is kind of like milk. I mean, right? It's cream, sugar, a little salt. Stir it. Okay. Oh, I do have a straw. I have an old straw over here. Stir it. I'm stirring it. Here's the sound for you, people. All right.
I love Brandon. This is a drink for radio. I have to turn away.
It's good. Look, I'm totally drinking it.
So it's like a what? Like a milkshake? Asks Calvin.
I wouldn't say like it's not as milky as a milkshake. Look, I'm even going to add more milk to it because I really don't really taste that much milk. And again, I'm still getting over my cold, so I'm wondering if that's
I don't even like. I wonder, do I know you? I don't know. Al says
it's not that bad.
You need to do a wine ice cream slushie.
Yeah. Okay, can I tell you the gross? You want to be grossed out by things that I drank stupidly.
Nick's blaming it because you're still sick. He says, "Yeah, you're sick. This is why you don't have an
I
accurate
can taste
representation."
Lauren, I want any of you. It's not gross, Lauren. It is not gross. It's not. I would tell you if it was gross. I would. You know me. I'm honest. It's not bad. Matthew McConaughey, you can have the rest of it. There you go. It's like an egg cream. An egg cream is a cold beverage consisting of milk, carbonated water, and flavored syrup. David, there you go, people. Now, again, beware, Nikki. This mixture. Okay, hold on. I love Mo. It's a reverse flow chocolate ice cream Mountain Dew.
Ew. Eric.
Chocolate ice cream and Mountain Dew.
That sounds
maybe we'll do that next time. Eric, is it good? I mean, I don't know how far I'm going to go down this. I know this Mo. Beware, Nikki. This mixture can induce extreme mucus buildup. Great. So I'm going to be like snotty and coffee pretty soon, but we'll see how I do. Nikki has high food standards. I feel like there's some mocking going on. I really, really do. I feel like there's some mocking. Okay.
I just can't believe you actually liked it. I expected.
Yeah, I thought it was gross.
I thought it was going to be a really funny gross face and then we'd be done with it. But you sucked a lot of that down. I mean, I'll
continue drinking it. It's not bad.
I can't even believe it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm trying to really taste and it's not bad. I bet this would be good with chocolate milk. Milk and maybe. All right, send all your little concoctions to me, and I'll give it a shot. I don't want to vomit during the show though, so nothing too gross.
Pilk gets a thumbs up. All right.
Pilk gets a big, and I didn't think I was gonna like it, but I will say now that I have it in my mind, like root beer float, yeah, it makes total sense. It absolutely makes total sense. Yeah, you guys got to send me some ideas. I can't come up with all of them, but you guys want me to try something. Hopefully I don't end up burping. This is why I don't drink soda. And this is why I don't eat on air is because I'm going to be all bleh. But I want to tell you the grossest drink I ever had. Now, this is gross. And it's only because, and I only drank it because I was already drunk. I'd gone to a concert and I didn't drive home, so don't worry about it. I went to a concert and I drank Red Bull with red wine.
Mixed together?
Mixed together.
Oh.
And it was, well, the first one was gross. And then, like when you're drinking something and it's not that good, but then you drink one and then you're hammered. So you just keep drinking it and it's fine. You guys have been there. Okay. So I drank one and it was gross, but then we just kept ordering them. I will also say this. That was the last day I have ever drank an energy drink because what happened? I drank too many.
Mm-hmm.
I drank too much. I threw up, but because I drank a Red Bull, I couldn't sleep it off. I couldn't go to sleep. So I just had to sit there in my hungover, nauseous misery. It was awful. So I don't drink Rockstars, Red Bulls, none of them ever again. I won't do that.
Yeah,
I won't have a Red Bull and vodka. No, but it was with red wine. It was awful.
At least you didn't taint good red wine with Red Bull,
Oh yeah, no. It was like concert red wine, which is all crap anyway. All right, so big thumbs up on the Pepsi and milk again. The Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com. If you have something you want me to try on a Friday food segment or a food and drink segment, let me know. All right. Speaking of things that you may like or not like, what do you think about the color of the year? It is
Is that
called
magenta?
Viva Magenta. Viva
Yeah.
Magenta. This is one of the pictures that are going. Is it Pantones? Is that how I put it? Pantones? 2023 color of the year. And it's called Viva Magenta. Could you incorporate, Kim McAllister, Viva Magenta in your repertoire, in your closet,
Yeah, I
in your
think so.
accessories? Yeah?
I'm not afraid of color.
A little pop of color. Like if I was
Yeah.
wearing black and like I had a
With
bold Viva Magenta necklace or something, or earrings, that could be
right.
fun. That could be
Yeah.
really, really fun. I don't know about wearing a whole dress in this color.
No, I'd do like a shirt, a Viva Magenta shirt with a black sweater over it.
I love the name of it. Viva Magenta. That's really so yeah, I like it. It's pretty. Let me show it again. And so they always name a color of the year, which I find to be kind of
Weird.
funny. How do you do this? So do you remember what last year's or this year's
And
was?
who decides? Like, is there a color of
Pantone.
the year panel?
It's
You know?
Pantone's Color Institute. They decide
Mm.
it. So this year's color of the year was periwinkle blue,
Oh, I like periwinkle.
which is kind of, and it's more purple than blue, if you ask me. Um,
Well, this one is, but you said last year's was periwinkle?
no, well, so this is next year's. This is Viva Magenta is 2023's color of the year. So you have to wear it
Oh,
next year. So this
okay.
is, let me show you the screen because I didn't save the, here. This was this year's. That looks more purple to me.
I
Oh,
think we
did I
might
not
have
share it? Hold on, I didn't share it.
what
Hold on. I gotta.
magenta's still up. We might have to take away magenta in
Oh,
order
there we
to
go. There we go. There we
okay.
go.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I
more
love
purple.
periwinkle.
Periwinkle. Purple's my favorite color. Hands
Yeah.
down my favorite color. So, did you wear a lot of purple this year? I wear purple often.
Well, I didn't know periwinkle was our color of the year, so I have been remiss.
You have not been paying attention to the Pantone's Color of the Year Institute announcement at the end of every single year. How dare you, Kim
What a
McAllister?
failure. I mean,
What a failure of you.
I don't
So
know
this
if I
was
can
this
look at
year.
myself in the mirror. I don't know
I
how
mean,
I'm gonna live.
maybe if you're looking for a Christmas or New Year's outfit, you put a little periwinkle on you and you're
Uh-huh.
all good. There you go.
Mhm.
Okay, so we have a nice show coming up on this Friday. I do want to get into this story, and I'm so curious on what people in the live chat think of this. Stanford being investigated for bias against men. Okay. Basically, the nuts and bolts, and again, we'll talk about this after the news with Kim. The nuts and bolts of the story is this: that there are men who are looking around Stanford University and saying there are all of these clubs and groups and scholarships that imply or are simply only for women. And they're saying, look, the number of women is outpacing men in higher education. And so they think that this is discrimination and bias against men. So I want you guys to let me know in the chat. Well, first, what do you think about this? And I was trying to digest how it must feel, to be on the other side. That's being empathetic. Like, unless these guys are trolls, which I don't believe that they necessarily are, although they may be. Like, if you're walking around Stanford University and you're looking at opportunities for this person and opportunities for that person, and it's never you, or it's rarely you, or it's becoming less and less for you, do they have an argument? Now, on the other side, people are saying, okay, so women, the outreach to women to go into college and higher education and all of these different types of fields, STEM, we're seeing improvements there. But in the real world, women are still very underrepresented. Should that matter when you're talking about programs, scholarships, clubs in the school community, in the college community? And how do you level the playing field? Is it too soon to even look at, pulling back on some of these women focused groups and scholarships? And what would be a good way to lift up, help, support historically marginalized groups without then ostracizing or neglecting groups that maybe, like men, and we can even go further, white men that have not been historically marginalized in this way? So let me know in the chat room. I'll get into it a little bit more. A Stanford law professor and sociologist, Michelle Dauber, has weighed in on this. And it's this whole question of what is bias and how do you help marginalized groups without getting the accusation that you're being biased. I'm also going to play you some sound of a Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Ressa. She's Ressa. She's out with a book, How to Stand Up to a Dictator. She was on with Stephen Colbert, and she was talking about social media. And one of the great things about social media that we know about is how quickly information can get out there. You know, if you have a cause, if you're in a country that doesn't make the news necessarily, you could use social media in that way. But she's talking about, looking at the Philippines where she's from Duterte, and she compares Duterte and Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook. Because in the Philippines, Facebook is their internet. And she's talking about how, conspiracies and lies are actually undermining free speech and democracy. And so I'll play you a little bit of sound from that. And then I'm going to read you, kind of the counter argument of, wait a minute, you can't suppress free speech to protect free speech. And then I'll also, and I promised you guys this, I'm going to read you an email from a listener who's very upset with me and reached out and said she can't support the show financially because she's so, I don't know if it's a woman. I'm sorry. This person is upset at me.
Why?
And that's a tease, Kim McAllister.
Oh.
I will let you know.
I'm tired of your teasing me.
I am such a tease, Kim McAllister, and I'm so very good at it. But yeah, I'll read that in the next half hour, definitely during the show. I'll read you the email, and I'll also tease this. I'll say okay, because we've made the point that this person has made before. So that's all coming up. We'll get into a little bit of, what am I doing? Oh, I also have that time traveler tease from yesterday. I'll tell you what they're saying. So that's coming up. We just have a bunch of stuff coming up. It is a big show. Click that thumbs up button while we're thinking about it. Support the show. The super chat is open. If you could throw some bucks there because you love the show, whether you agree with me or not. That's all coming up on the Nikki Medoro Show on YouTube.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. Group of moderate Republicans throwing their support behind Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy in his bid to become Speaker of the House. California's McCarthy won support from Republicans for the speakership nomination, but a group of conservatives is threatening his path to secure the gavel in January. In a letter, the centrist Republican governance group urged colleagues to unite behind McCarthy and put posturing aside to focus on responsible governance. President Biden is doing some political fundraising for Democrats during his trip to Boston today. Before departing Washington, President Biden said he'd be participating in a major fundraiser to help Georgia Senator Raphael Warnock ahead of his runoff election against Republican challenger Herschel Walker. Prosecutors in the Trump Organization's tax fraud trial say the company benefited heavily in its scheme. In closing arguments, prosecuting attorney Joshua Steinglass said the company paying executives off the books for 15 years helped it keep salaries down and reduced payroll taxes. He argued the Trump Organization also used the scheme to move tax deductions to other Trump entities like his Mar-a-Lago property in Florida. The mayor of San Jose pushing now to require rideshare companies to report sexual assault. Sam Liccardo says they are not sharing it with the one entity that can actually do something about it, the very real threat posed by the assailant, and that's the police department. He says the new proposed ordinance would better protect survivors and keep the community safe. City of Oakland considering renaming one of its streets for Bay Area rap icon Too Short. According to the East Bay Times, it would be a 3-block stretch of Foothill Boulevard between 47th Avenue and High Street. The road runs past Fremont High School where the rapper graduated. The city council will discuss renaming the street on Tuesday, Too Short Avenue. The holiday season means lots of festivities It's also a prime time for porch pirates. Security officials say more than 200 million packages nationwide have been lifted off of porches just this year, and it only takes a matter of seconds to snatch a box from in front of a house. They say you should arrange to have packages delivered to areas hidden from the street or ask a neighbor to be on the lookout for a delivery. And I don't know if you saw the star of the U.S. men's soccer team take a pretty bad groin injury when he was making a goal. But it looks like the star of the U.S. men's soccer team will be returning in time for tomorrow's game against the Netherlands. Christian Pulisic suffered a pelvic contusion while scoring a goal in the team's final group play match against Iran this week. Again, he will be okay for the next game. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. Call Steve at 888-TAX-STEAL. Find him online, MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
All right. I want to give out some thank yous because our super chat is live and you guys are starting us off just right. Jim Slayton starting us off with a happy Friday and a $4.99 shout out. Chris B. Love you, Chris B. Don't listen as much as I'd like. Work, but appreciate the show. And we, my friend, appreciate you and your $4.99 donation. Tony, our friend from San Antonio, gave us a $19.99 super sticker. Love you, Tony. Love that you listen to us out there. And Radcliffe won with the $1.49 super sticker. Thank you all so very much. We really appreciate it. Any help you can give us, please do. You can become a monthly subscriber by simply going to the NikkiMedoroShow.com and clicking on the Patreon, which is how I got that angry email that I've been teasing. So I will read that to you. And of course, click that thumbs up. It helps us out and it costs you absolutely nothing but a little bitty click. So do that. Okay, so let's get into Stanford. So the complaint was filed by Kürşat Pekgöz, who is a CEO of a Turkish real estate company, and James Moore, who's a Stanford alumnus and emeritus professor at USC. Okay, so this is what they're complaining about. So it actually started out with a complaint against more than 27 groups at Stanford, but they're now looking specifically into women's groups like Stanford Women in Business, Women of Stanford Law, Stanford Women in Design, Stanford Society of Women Engineers, and the Gabelin Provost's Discretionary Fund. Now, Pekgöz told the Chronicle, Stanford is not exceptional with regard to Title IX violations, and that similar complaints are pending against other institutions. He's filed them against UC Santa Cruz, USC, Yale, Princeton, arguing that women's groups or scholarships discriminate against men at a time when women are outpacing men in both enrollment and graduation rates. Now, it's to be noted, again, that women are still underrepresented in high-paying fields and leadership positions in business and politics. And I add that caveat with this question. Should that matter when we're talking about the groups and the scholarships at a college? Because, you can only control what you can control. The opportunities a college gives students does not guarantee something out in the real world, right? They could do all these groups and scholarships and, assistance for all kinds of groups. It doesn't necessarily mean it's going to translate to a higher paying job or a guarantee of that. On the other hand, do these men have a point? And how do you, this is the harder question to answer. How do you help historically marginalized groups? How do you look at something like, and let's just keep it women versus men and just try to keep it as simple as that, okay? How do you get more women to go into STEM fields, excel in leadership positions, give them the connections, that often happen on college campuses without, as these men are alleging, being biased against men? Or do you think that it's not being biased against men? Because I guess that's a larger question.
imagine, if you will,
Mm-hmm. Okay.
the Stanford Law Men's Club, which doesn't allow women amongst ranks.
Okay.
Imagine, I don't know, what else is he complaining about there?
Let's see. Let me read it out to you again. So it's women, Stanford Society of Women Engineers, Stanford
Mhm.
Women in Business, Women of
Right.
Stanford Law, Women in Design, Women, Women, Women.
So just replace everything with men in business, men in engineering,
That's just
engineering
called
men's club.
business.
I'm
That's just
just
called women. It's
that's
like female
exactly right.
engineer and
That's
engineer,
called.
right?
But if women were not allowed entry into those clubs, as there are many all male clubs, like private clubs, that women haven't been allowed into, and that's been a point of contention because it's discrimination. So could you then say the reverse when really? I think the problem is with the inequity is not that there are women's clubs,
Mm,
right? It's that women have complained about being excluded from business, from technology,
mhm.
from all the things that would allow a person to be successful. If is there a lack of men in business, engineering, tech, law?
Right.
No,
No.
there's not. So why are you worried about it?
Yeah.
If there
Um,
was a lack of men, then I could see he'd have a point, but he doesn't have a point because men have historically been successful in all of these fields. So you don't need a special group to encourage each other, to lift each other up. You already got it going on.
yeah, and that's how I also see it this way is women are, how do I put this? I mean, yes, they are able to make their own decisions because when we talk about things like, the time women take off to have a family, for instance, it's not as if men can take that spot, right? I mean, there is the physical demands of being pregnant, having, giving birth, and then recovering before you go back to work if that's what a woman chooses to do. A man cannot take that place. And there is a financial and I would say professional cost to being that person that you can't fix, right? We can't fix that. It's just that women give birth, women are the ones that have a baby. So to make up for that, in one way, let's say, let's try to get women earlier in their college years, put them into different fields, teach them leadership roles to create businesses that may be more flexible with women so that they can continue their professional climb even while having a child. It's a hard thing, I think, for men to understand. If I wanted to be snarky, I would just say, well, let's just let all of these clubs last as long as women have not had the same rights as men, right? I mean, how long it took us to even get the right to vote. Let's keep doing it until there is no pay gap between men and women, because we're not there yet. Um, Walnut Creek Adult Softball chatted in, or it's now noticed women are outpacing men. That's why it's being brought up. Interesting point. So they're looking at the statistics and they're like, oh my God, they're catching up. Oh my God. It does sound like there's an air of fear behind it. And it goes back, I think, to this constant othering that happens when we have debates like this. It's, oh no, look at all these groups that are benefiting women. I'm not going to have a place there. As if your place there was guaranteed before. Because certain groups, let's just say men, and you can get more specific and say white men, because sorry, that's just what history tells us, has been the default, right? What does a president of the United States look like? For a very long time, it was a white man, right? And it's still a man. So being the default and then that changing, I think is getting a lot of pushback from the people that kind of liked to be the default. We're planning on continue being the default and don't like seeing what the default is being, not being the default at all. It's really, it's an interesting question. Someone else was mentioning in the chat, and I like David's comment, white males can't claim a victimhood. I wouldn't go that far. I think white men can be victims of certain things. But in this case, and someone had mentioned these gentlemen don't go to the school anymore, although again, one of them is an alumnus of Stanford. and an emeritus professor at USC, which is one of the universities that's facing one of these allegations. I will say, do they have standing? Yes, perhaps. But if you are just saying, I can't be part of that group or get that scholarship, so I'm a victim, I don't think that they're going to have much to stand on there. I really don't. Anonymous, the clubs, the people in charge, the networking opportunities, the funding, etc., and the perceptions of inequity are artifacts of the leaders of those clubs and how much support they garner. How many of you, think that we should still be making any sort of, you know, I guess quotas? I don't like to use the word quota. I mean, we've debated affirmative action. How do we get to any sort of equity, equality, fairness in places like higher education? Some people say, well, just make it all blank. It'll just be information. You won't have a name, a number, and that way the best person gets it. But we know that doesn't often happen. Even the tests that they take are skewed to people that can get help to prepare for those tests. There's always going to be people that'll have a leg up.
I think you look around and say, does any group of people, does anyone still need a hand up? Does anyone still need a lift?
Mm-hmm.
Yes? Okay. Then
here we go.
Then let's help you. Let's help you out. Let's make sure that you are as represented as you want to be in whatever field that you're trying to be recognized as. Until we look around and say, does anybody need a hand up? No? Okay. We did it. We have succeeded in this wonderful community where everyone feels like they are represented. Is that ever going to happen?
I mean, I don't obviously, I would say I would love for us to get to a place where if you wanted to do something, you would have the opportunity, the money, the resources to do whatever you want to do, right? That's the definition of having a dream and having it realized. Mm-hmm. But that's not true. That's not true in this country for every person. And I don't think there's anywhere in the world where that's actually happening. But
so until it does, then shut up. And let people have their clubs and have their groups, and let's help each other out until we get to the point where we look around and every single person feels really good about where we've arrived. Right.
And I think the thing that people forget is it's always this argument of God, racism doesn't exist, sexism doesn't exist. Why are you guys so focused on the past? It's 2022. People understand these things. But I think when people make those comments, they forget that the actual system was set up with those biases and discrimination. And when you have a whole system that's built that benefits, let's say one group of people, let's just say men, you can't break the whole system and start over. But what you can do is introduce things that can help other groups that weren't part of the creation of this entire system. That when colleges were formed, they were for men to go to, women stayed home, right? That's the reason we have women in law groups, right? Why we want to have these specialized groups for people who were not there and were not even thought of when these systems were designed. And you can't ignore the initial design of something. You can't ignore the initial design of even how this country was founded. And so people that want to talk about, why do we talk about racism? That was back in the day. No, because there are so many systems in place in this country that have ties to that. And you may not see it because it's been so ingrained in us. And that's the problem. Eric Kennedy, racism is institutionalized. That's mainly what's being studied in actual critical race theory, yes, the legalized structures that reinforce racism. Yet, and ignoring history isn't going to help us. I know people are like, well, what about the statues, the generals that you want to tear down? The stories are still there. The history books are still there. Museums are still there. But we have to also be honest with what is our history. What is the history of, let's say, Stanford University? What is the history of how it was founded? What is the history of the clubs and who participated? And the graduation rates. And all of a sudden, the graduation rates are looking pretty good for women. And we're just going to, all right, well, it's good enough. Let's end all the clubs and the scholarship and all the help. That makes zero sense whatsoever. You can't do it like that. Now, is there a way to incorporate other types of groups? I'm not seeing anybody say these guys can't start their own men-in-law groups or that there's nothing out there for them. I'm pretty sure a quick Google search, you would find numerous groups that help men in all these different areas. And so I don't know if they're just trying to make a point, but Stanford is not really commenting on the lawsuit, and we'll see what comes of it. But I think they may just be trying to prove a point that, in my opinion, is going to fall on deaf ears. But we do not have deaf ears for our favorite person on this show, in addition to all of our viewers and listeners, of course. And that is our exclusive founding sponsor, Steve Moskowitz. And on this Friday, Steve, tell us all of the things that people call you for, especially as we head towards the end of the year.
Tax planning, tax return preparation, ERC, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And then the accounting work, HR, we do that as well. And, I just got off the phone with one of your listeners, delightful woman, and we're able to help her too. And
good.
Get her some money where she thought this is much smaller than the 1.5 million we were talking about yesterday. But we were also able to get her some ERC money where she thought that she didn't qualify. Just a wonderful, wonderful woman. We spent most of the time talking about how much we love your show and Mark's show and how she listens or had listened to you all day on Station X and is so happy that you're here.
I love it.
She's listening right now. It was just a real pleasure to chat with you personally just now. And Nikki is looking forward to talking to you as well.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And again, Steve, remind people, because you touched on it just there. I mean, it's not just tax stuff. I mean, you do HR things. There are questions that you and your team can answer for people that they may not automatically think of.
That's right. Like talking to them about pensions when they have to make the tough decision of, would you rather pay less to the IRS and put money away for yourself, or not put money away for yourself and pay more to the IRS? Most people don't have a tough time figuring that one out.
Well, give Steve a call. He knows it all. He's so awesome. And he will explain it to you in a way you'll understand. Go ahead, Kim.
I have to ask a non-tax related question, because earlier in the chat, someone wanted us to ask you for a wild taxi cab story. So do you have any stories where, like, when you were driving the cab?
Taxi cab confessions over here with Steve Moskowitz.
Oh, you know what? This is a perfect teaser. And if I didn't have to go on with Chip Franklin right now, I would tell you. So stay tuned for Monday.
All right, perfect. I love it. I'm going to remember. I'm putting it in my rundown. Steve is going to have a taxi cab confession at the end of next one. All right, we'll talk to you Monday, Steve. Thank you so much. Bye. Thank you. Yeah, so he's on with Chip Franklin, and they do podcasts together, and there's the Ask the Tax Man. So Steve is there for you if you have any questions. I love that one of our viewers and listeners just called Steve and just got off the phone with him. It's just amazing. So another big thank you to Steve Moskowitz. Give him a call, 888 Tax Deal or MoskowitzLLP.com. All right, so let's get to some of the comments regarding this idea that Stanford University and others, USC, are biased. I love this. Yes, I'm so glad you put it up. Jim Slayton, can't men make their own clubs? And I'll answer it this way. I think the point is they want to be part of the women's clubs. And doesn't that seem selfish? I don't know what the right word there is. It does seem
they want to be part of the women's club. I think they don't want to be part of the women's club, and they don't want the women to have their own club either.
You think they're afraid?
Yeah.
I mean, and it goes back to what I was saying about this othering of people. Nate writes in, people don't actually understand the definition of the word institutionalized. More and more, it seems, in this country, people stop looking up definitions to understand what is being said. I don't think that people fully understand what it means to live in a country. I don't think everybody understands. Let me say this, different groups, where you weren't the default, like what I was talking about. How do you explain to somebody that knows no different, that it doesn't come easier to you, or that when you go for a job interview, despite the fact that you have Stanford University, that it comes across, and you've seen it evidenced by not getting hired or not getting the raise, that there is still bias and discrimination out there. How do you do that, even though the numbers of women graduating from higher education may be up? How do you then explain that they're not making it to the leadership positions? YouTube user chats in, handouts should be based purely on economics. Okay. So the economics of what? A woman's wage? How much?
Or a man. So
Or a
whoever
man?
has the most financial need would get the help, regardless of color or gender in the YouTube user's world.
RJ Dunn, we here at Men Incorporated apologize for the services rendered by this man agent. I love you, RJ Dunn. That wins the chat of the conversation. Thank you. Yeah, it's a hard thing to answer. I fully support, though, groups, organizations that dedicate themselves to lifting up marginalized groups, and those that feel discriminated against because of that, I think, do need to educate themselves on the history of people that lived and grew up like they did and had the opportunities that they did. Now, of course, we'll have someone say, well, I wasn't rich. I didn't get any sort of scholarship. It's not talking about the individual. It's talking about the group. And you may not even be aware of the benefits that simply being in your body have given you in the real world. Karen D, these guys have another agenda. They want to stop any kind of affirmative action, trying to turn back the clock to the good old days, which were actually the bad old days for everyone else. Yeah, I mean, look at people like Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right? And what she had to fight through to end up on the U.S. Supreme Court. I mean, there are numerous stories of women, let's just go back to the women versus men, breaking through those glass ceilings, or breaking through a glass ceiling and it not even being recognized, right? What was that movie about the women that worked for NASA? The Black women that worked for NASA. Was it Broken Glasses or something like that? Broken
figures,
Ceiling.
shapes, something.
Hidden Figures. Hidden
There you go.
Figures. Thank you. Another great movie about how it's different for women. And it's the small ways and it's the big ways. But it's throughout history. And that wasn't that long ago. Right? So people are like, oh, get over it. It's still here. It still has, its tendrils in how things work in this country. And so, yeah, I think I agree with the person that says, I don't think these people have standing. How were they hurt? And could they not have healed themselves by doing what somebody else said and starting their own groups? So, all right, we're going to do some news in a few moments. When we return, I'm going to play you some sound of this Nobel Peace Prize winner, Maria Ressa. She is the author of the book, How to Stand Up to a Dictator. Now, I believe she was talking about the Philippine dictator, Duterte. But she was also calling out Mark Zuckerberg and saying that, like, in the Philippines, with Facebook basically being their internet, can you imagine that?
No.
You think it's bad here with January 6th and the 2020 election. Imagine if that was your internet, was Facebook, and that's where you were getting your information. And so she kind of calls it out and calls us out about our use of social media. But again, similar to the Stanford story, there are people pushing back. She says using free speech can stifle free speech, right? We have to allow people to say whatever they want and people will just educate themselves. And so that's going to be my question to you. And I'm going to put this under in the shadow following January 6th, and how I personally believe people are tired of the conspiracy talk and the election fraud talk. There's still people that buy into that BS, but Trump doesn't seem, at least at this point, to be very top of mind when we're talking about the next president. It does seem that people have at least a little bit become smart to the game, right? Become smart to the conspiracy and are tired of it. But can we wait for people to smarten up? And what do we do if we can't wait? If there is the threat of something like another January 6th. The news surrounding Kanye West continues. He's been kicked off Twitter. Apparently he's not buying Parler or Parlay or whatever the hell you call it. And then I'll get to that email. I promise. I'll get to that email from a listener who's not happy with me. I'm assuming they're still listening, but they don't want to support me because of a decision that I have made. And so we'll get into that. And that'll be interesting. That's all coming up on the Nikki Medoro Show live on YouTube. But first, some news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. It is the last day to vote early in Georgia's Senate runoff election. Democratic incumbent Raphael Warnock and Republican Herschel Walker squaring off in a race to decide the nation's last Senate seat. The polls will be open statewide from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Tuesday. Illinois House Democrats are proposing a ban on assault weapons and on high-capacity ammunition magazines. Lawmakers also want to take away the ability for most people under the age of 21 to get a gun permit in that state. That's in Illinois. The legislation was filed in response to the deadly mass shooting at a 4th of July parade in Highland Park, north of Chicago. The president of France is visiting New Orleans today. Mayor Latoya Cantrell will welcome Emmanuel Macron at Jackson Square before he meets with Governor John Bel Edwards. A visit to the New Orleans Museum of Art will follow, where Macron will announce the creation of a fund to promote the teaching of French in American schools. All federal inmates who were being held in private prisons are now in federal facilities. The Bureau of Prisons began designating low-security inmates to privately managed facilities back in the 80s to manage prison population. Last year, President Biden signed an executive order directing the Bureau to move the inmates back to federal facilities, calling it the first step to stop corporations from profiting off incarceration. Here in California, state regulators are ending their enhanced oversight of PG&E. They say the San Francisco-based utility is now clearing trees around lands at the highest risk of sparking wildfires. The Public Utilities Commission began enforcement last year, putting the company on probation. The executive director says PG&E has corrected its safety failure and has met its vegetation clearance targets for the last 2 years now. In the South Bay, Archer Aviation is announcing its all-electric aircraft called Maker successfully completed its first transition to full wing-borne flight. Maker has 12 propellers attached to 6 booms on a fixed wing, providing for vertical takeoff. During its flight, Maker's tilt propellers lock in cruise position for the first time, and the aircraft flew at a calibrated airspeed of 91 knots or 105 miles per hour. The future is here. And as Nikki mentioned, the Twitter account of the rapper formerly known as Kanye West has been suspended. Ye, as he is now known, posted an image of a swastika inside of a Star of David. Ye's anti-Semitic outbursts have led to major commercial partners cutting ties with the rapper as well. And a bit of a birthday today. It is the 30th anniversary of something just about every American does dozens, if not hundreds of times a day. On December 3rd, 1992, British software programmer Neil Papworth sent the world's first text message from a computer to his colleague Richard Jarvis. It read, "Merry Christmas." Papworth was working as a developer and a test engineer to create short message service, or SMS. 1 year later, Finnish cell phone maker Nokia introduced an SMS feature with a distinctive beep to announce an incoming message. All hail the text message. And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses alike. If you need help with your taxes, go ahead and call Steve. He's at 88 Tax Deal. He's also online at moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is the second hour of the Nikki Medoro Show live on YouTube. I do want to give some shouts out to people that have been supporting the show. Andreas, I love you. He's like, sorry I'm late. $10 from Andreas on this Friday. Nice. We absolutely love you. Thank you so much. And then we have another $10 from Andreas who says, I promise you Trump will not win. I will not support the a-hole. Neither will I, Andreas. Neither will I. While we're thinking about it, please click that thumbs up button. It really helps us out and supports the show. And of course, go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com and become a monthly Patreon subscriber, because that'll keep our lights on if we know that we have steady money coming in. So thank you all for that. Okay, so let's get into this interview that Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Ressa gave on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. So Maria Ressa authored the book, How to Stand Up to a Dictator. I think she was on his show last night. Now, here's a little bit of her. She was talking. Now, again, she's from the Philippines. And, Duterte is just, he's a dictator. The drug program in the Philippines, if you don't know, if they caught you doing drugs on the street, they could shoot you dead. And they have. That's how brutal they are with their drug laws in that country. And then, of course, there's also how social media impacts people. And so she compares Duterte to Mark Zuckerberg.
Authoritarians or dictators and social media companies, how are they connected in ways that perhaps we don't often think about?
One enabled the other. There's a reason why 60% of the world today is now under authoritarian rule. The number of democracies globally has been rolled back to 1989 levels. In 2016, I stood up and I said, we demand an end to impunity on two fronts. Rodrigo Duterte, our president in the Philippines, his brutal drug war. And the second is Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook. Because in the end, what happened in the Philippines would not have happened if Facebook wasn't there. 100% of Filipinos on the internet are on Facebook. Facebook is our internet. And, I guess this is the other part. In 2016, I said, America, look at us. What is happening to us is coming for you.
Think about what she just said there. What happened to us is coming to you. Now, is the United States of America the Philippines? No, it is not. You can't ignore history, culture, things like that. I love the comment from Mo. He writes, when the flip phones of old, before they were smart or prevalent in the Philippines, one of the services that was built into the operating system was Facebook. So basically you'd open your phone and that's what it was. And so everybody was on it. I didn't know that, Mo. Thank you for that. But think about that. When she is saying, is comparing Facebook's entrance into the Philippines for kind of this disillusion of democracy. And then she was reacting to all of that after January 6th. Here's again, is Nobel Peace Prize winner Maria Ressa.
When I saw January 6th happen, violence on Capitol Hill, something we have never seen before, but the same methodology, bottom-up social media, lies, a fact, becomes a lie, or a lie said a million times becomes a fact. So you can't distinguish. Mm-hmm. Then it comes top down from the government, from the president himself, same methodology. And then you have no idea where truth lies, right? So in our case, what we saw is all of a sudden society was splintering. And how do you react to this? 3 sentences I've said repeatedly since 2016. If you don't have facts, you can't have truth. Without truth, you can't have trust. Without these 3, we have no shared reality. We can't solve any problems. We have no democracy. That's what social media has done. It has come in and used free speech to stifle free speech. Right?
So you hear them clapping right there. And I think she's right. When people say, I can say whatever I want to say, free speech, without understanding the implications of that. Now, I'm not saying you can't stand on a corner and say whatever you want against your government. You can. But we can't ignore technology. And I feel like people that free speech or nothing ignore that constantly. They ignore the impact of how quickly misinformation, conspiracies, lies can spread like wildfire and then end up like something on January 6th. Those people were convinced And the people oftentimes, and you'll read these stories, I mean, with Stewart Road, the Oath Keeper, he knew he was full of crap. I'm trying to get on, just on a side note, I'm trying to get on one or maybe two journalists that write for, I think it's military.com. It's an online publication that deals with the military. Great article. I wanted to talk to these journalists about people like Rhodes, how they use veterans who are looking for some meaning after leaving, service. And they used them, and they used that kind of hole in their lives and exploited it with this nonsense that led to January 6th. So I'm trying to get them on for next week. Hopefully I can get both, if not one of them on. But again, the leaders of some of these things don't even buy the BS. You think Trump fully bought it? I mean, I think there's a part of him that really wants it to be true because he's nuts. He knew what he was saying. And his ego, he just couldn't say it out of his mouth. He couldn't calm those people down. We saw it. He's like, I just can't say that the election's over. I can't say it. He couldn't bring himself to do it because he didn't want to. He didn't want to. And so that's what we need to fight against. Now, I am encouraged. I'm encouraged that it seems, at least at this point, to be a big old yawn of the former president running again. People are kind of tired of that whole song and dance about election fraud. It's only election fraud if your person loses, because that's basically the argument they're constantly making. So I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged that it seems that maybe our country is getting smart to the BS from the former president and his lackeys. On the other hand, we can't keep having January 6th and outrage, because one of these times it may work. One of these times our democracy may not hold. So then what? Then what do we do? So there was this article that I was reading that was kind of pushing back on what Maria Ressa was saying. This writer by the name of Peter Franklin wrote for unheard.com. And this is what he said. He said, the implication, whether Ressa intended it or not, is that we can only protect freedom by constraining it. Up to a point, this contradiction makes perfect sense. Our fundamental liberties, including the right to free expression, are not absolute, hence our long-standing laws against slander, fraud, and incitement of violence. What's new, however, is the elite push to take the regulation of speech well beyond such limits. Ironically, given Ressa's criticism of Facebook, it is the big social media companies that have led the way, for instance, by deplatforming Donald Trump. Governments are getting in on the act too. Earlier this year, the Biden administration tried to set up a disinformation governance board within the Department of Homeland Security. The initiative ended, but the impulse to protect democracy by censoring free speech hasn't gone away. Now, I'm not in agreement with this gentleman. I think that our laws don't go far enough when we're talking about libel and slander. I think that there should be certain topics that if you don't have evidence and is actually a lie and you don't prove that it's true, there should be a consequence to that. Our elections. I mean, I think that if you lie about election fraud, if you make up a claim about election fraud with no evidence, there should be a consequence for that. There should be carve-outs where, kind of like hate speech, right? Or hate crime, where when you're talking about something as fundamental as our democracy, if you want to stand before the American people, if you want to go on your social media platform and make claims that machines are changing votes or whatever nonsense came out of 2020, you better have the receipts, because if you don't, your ass is in prison.
What if you are a candidate who's legitimately concerned that there was something hinky going on? What if you have should you ever be able to, I have questions, right? I wonder what happened here.
But there's a system for that. But no, I think that's not what was happening on January, that led to January 6th.
It was out and out lies. Yeah.
It was out and out lies. Dominion, voting machines are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
The ballots it was this absolute statement. And not only from, let's say lawmakers, but when the president himself was saying it, I mean, that has to carry weight. I have questions. Okay, well, we have a process. We have people in charge. We have election officials, right? We have a certification process. And even though going through all of that, what was it, 60 plus lawsuits? They lost every single one except one.
Mm-hmm.
And they still fought it. I think that after you've gone through all of the steps that we already have in place, if you continue to say that, there should be jail time. I don't see the problem of that. You cannot say things that undermine our democracy, especially when you have such a platform as being a lawmaker or the president of the freaking United States. Okay. And that way it gives them pause. All right, you think it? Prove it. Prove it. Because that is the one thing none of them could do.
Especially when at the January 6th hearing, one statement really stood out to me, which was I think it was the Arizona elections commissioner or someone in the House that was saying he got a call from Rudy Giuliani.
Mm-hmm.
And Rudy Giuliani said, hey, it's okay if what we're asking you to do isn't
Right.
true. All we need is a moment. All we need is the appearance of
Exactly.
chaos.
Exactly.
We just need a question mark to then
Mhm.
go in and exploit it to then add confusion, right? That's all we need. So I agree with
Exactly.
you. I think that we need to really revamp those rules, but I think we have to do it in a way that we're very careful, that we balance freedom of speech versus, the needs of our country.
I mean, I think democracy, I think our elections is a specific area in which if you are going to make claims that it should be, kind of like slander, libel, that sort of thing. It higher than that though. You need to be punished. That way it gives these idiots pause. All right, well, I'm going to say this, but there's going to be this consequence. And unless I can prove it, and prove it at a level where obviously an election would be changed, because that's
Right.
also the thing. That one guy that got caught because our system worked, trying to, vote twice or whatever. Well, then the system worked, right? It doesn't
Right.
prove that there's a voter fraud. It proves that we have safeguards in place. You freaking moron. So I don't know. I fear that we could have a repeat, but I am encouraged because I do think people are getting smarter. I just don't want to wait for people to get smarter. I want people that want to exploit emotion, disappointment that your guy or girl didn't get in, your political party didn't win. Exploiting those emotions in the moment can lead to chaos, like we saw on January 6th. And we just need adults back in the room.
And they did it on purpose so they could try to steal.
Exactly.
They did it on purpose.
Exactly. I know that you mentioned this regarding Kanye West. He has been kicked off Twitter. He's also not buying Parler. You know that your social media site's in the tubes when you're already trying to sell it, right? So apparently, Parler said in a statement, the company mutually agreed with Ye to terminate the intent of the sale of Parler in a decision made in mid-November.
Well, he's
But
having
Parler,
financial problems, right?
he can't get his Apple Pay. I don't know the rest of his money, but
He's having
yeah.
some trouble. Yeah.
He is his own worst enemy. Again, he needs help. I do think that he's having some sort of mental break. And I don't know if he's fully aware of what he's doing. I really don't. I don't know if he's in his right mind enough or if he's just burning it all down, because that's what it kind of seems like. I was listening to someone this morning on the radio saying, we talk about it, in this context, but having him on as an interview, is that right? I mean, should you really be bringing this person on knowing that they're just out of their minds right now? I mean, I don't know what's wrong with him.
Isn't it mean? Because they're doing it to get the
they're
headline.
exploiting him, right?
Yeah, they're exploiting him. Yeah. When you know someone's mentally ill and having an implosion, it's like showing pictures of Britney Spears when she went through the whole shaving of her head kind of thing, where you're looking at someone's full-on mental breakdown, and you're making it kind of I don't know, funny or headline worthy, and it's like, this should really be a private moment where family should gather around the person and say, we need to get
but he doesn't
help.
have his family. Someone had mentioned, I think when we were talking about it yesterday, somebody brought up, if Kanye West's mom was still alive, she could get through to him, but she's not here. And I do wonder, because after his mom died, remember, she was, I think, having plastic surgery and something went wrong and she died. He really started to spiral, I feel like. At least the story started to kind of, ramp up a bit with him having, all of these issues. So, I don't know. But I understand he says things that are insane, shocking. You don't have to agree with him. I don't think many people do, right? I'm sure there are some people that do. But I hope he gets the help that he needs. Okay, let's get into something I said that upset somebody. I'm going to preface this.
Done now.
I'm going to preface this by saying this is a topic we have talked about so much. Okay. Now, Kim, what do we always say when we don't like something and you could put money towards it? If you don't like it, you don't buy it, right?
That's right. Yeah.
It's making your decision, making your opinion known by the almighty dollar. Now, I of course. Oh, wait a minute.
Right?
Hold on one second. Mo, this just went up in the chat room. Mo, you missed it last hour. What happened to Nikki's Fabulous Food Friday? We did
pilked it.
We pilked it. So Mo, you're gonna have to go back and listen to the show again because that was a good one. That was a really good one. But anyways, sorry, I got distracted by that. Okay, so we have talked about this topic so many times. So I really don't want to get too into it because I've made myself, I feel clear on how I feel about this. The new thing is I made an announcement this week of something I was doing next weekend, and it upset this listener. Okay, so let me read you the email. So she wrote in, or he wrote in, I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep saying it's a woman. Anonymous wrote in. When you spend money to see that notorious transphobe, you are financially supporting hate speech. Therefore, I cannot financially support you. The evil you pay for is evil you do. Yep. So,
who's that from?
It's anonymous. It was an anonymous.
Oh, okay.
It was an anonymous email. So Kim, you're right in the comments. I am going to go see Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock next weekend. Not this weekend, next weekend. I have made clear even on Station X that I am a Dave Chappelle fan. I also did an extended, I think it was one of our podcasts that we did when we were at Station X, my reaction to his Netflix special, The Closer. I expressed in said podcast how disappointed I was that he was choosing to use his platform to tell jokes that some, yes, do find funny, but also to a group that doesn't need it, right? Like, why, when you have a choice to make jokes about something, why do you choose what you choose? And so I really got into it, and I maintained then, and I've said it now, and I've been very clear that I do like Dave Chappelle. I do. Did I agree with all of his jokes? Did I think they were funny? No. Do I like every joke or laugh at every joke of any comedian? No. Okay, I don't. Now, do I think that people shouldn't support my show because I support Dave Chappelle? That is completely up to you, Anonymous. I hope that you change your mind. I mean, I don't want to lose monthly subscribers to my show, of course. I hope that you understand and would know from listening to my show, if you've listened to it at any time, I'm a huge supporter of the LGBTQ community. I don't agree with Dave Chappelle when he's talking and making jokes about, the transgender community, about whether or not, transgender people even exist, right? As if that's even a thing. I don't agree with him on that. Do I hope that his stand-up comedy with Chris Rock is going to be funny? Yes, I do. Did I pay for the ticket? Yes, I did. So, and I know there's a lot of anonymous people in our chat room, and I'm not calling anyone else. This was just an anonymous text or email. I do want to play you though this one clip, and then again we could debate it again, but I feel like we've done this before. But this sound that I'm playing from you is from what honestly, and this is a sad fact, the only transgender woman comedian on Netflix. Okay. Her name is Flame Monroe. Okay. She was giving an interview. Now, this was last year, obviously after Dave Chappelle had come out with that comedy. And this is what Flame Monroe, and it's just the sound that I'm going to play you because it's on TMZ and I'll get dinged. This is what she had to say.
So as a comedian, I believe that I don't want to be censored. I think that nothing is off limits. And I think the social climate right now and the temperament started way back with Norman Lear, who had his finger on the pulse many years ago. The world has become too censored. And there's three dogs, like I said, I have in this fight. As a comedian, I don't want to be censored. As a trans woman, I want equality. And as a black person, I want fair treatment in this country that we've been trying to get for 400 years. So everything is important to me. All of this, what you can say and cannot say, is ridiculous. comedians are put on earth, and our safest place on the planet is us on a stage with a willing audience that's that's willing to listen, because what we do is we say things that other people are afraid to say, and we say them hopefully in a funny way so that you use your own mind to do your own critical thinking and think for yourself. I absolutely do not think that the special should be taken down off of Netflix or anything else for that matter with Netflix, because here's what needs to be done. We need to bring people to the table. What Dave did, what the great Dave Chappelle has just done is opened up a forum to have a real conversation between the heterosexual and the gay community. There is no topic that should be off limits. In the words of the great poet Nikki Giovanni, I have never worked a room where the door is locked. If you're in a room and you're uncomfortable, you are free to leave.
Yep. And so, and I wanted to play that really because of that last statement that she made. I hope people, agree with me, disagree with me, still tune into the show and still support the show, because we have differing opinions. And that's what makes a show great, is that we may not always agree. I will also say this, Flame Monroe gave an interview to CNN. And this is what she said. She said, as a trans person and a comedian, we mostly crack jokes about who we are and how we identify in my experience. And I'm only speaking for me, she says. She went on to say, you cannot ask for inclusion 24/7 and then conveniently want to be excluded because some truths are being told in a comedic fashion about your community. As for Dave Chappelle, a reminder at the end of Closer, he said he would no longer make jokes about the LGBTQ community until, quote, we are both sure that we are laughing together. And, again, comedy, the reason why this is such a tough topic to discuss, especially because we were just talking about free speech, right? Mm-hmm. Is comedy is in and of itself a forum in which you make fun of other people. And some people say, yeah, but you should punch up, not punch down. And while on one hand, I agree, I was disappointed in some of the jokes that Dave made, and I didn't find all of them funny. At the same time, people made jokes about women for years, still do, right? Is that always punching down? Can we never make jokes about women? And comedy is funny to some people and not funny to other people. Murphy writes in, this is a struggle for me too. I admit, no, I'm not anonymous, because my oldest child is trans. I don't personally like Dave Chappelle, but comedy and comedy writers are so important. And I'm a Patreon supporter. I love this show. Oh, thank you, Murphy. I love you so much. And yeah, it's hard, right? It's, am I really a supporter of the LGBTQ community if I go and see Dave Chappelle and Chris Rock? I feel like I can be both. And maybe you think that I'm being hypocritical in that, and you are free to have that opinion. I just don't want to see comedy. I mean, comedy is always pushing the envelope. If we look throughout history, some of the things that were said, it wasn't the demise of society. And some of them are truths that are hard to swallow or just funny. Jack, I know a lot of people, female to male or male to female, that enjoys Chappelle, but they admit that if they announce that in some circles, they get ostracized by others in the community. Yeah, I'm sure, right? I'm sure that there are people in all sorts of groups, women's groups, all kinds that are like, maybe even Trump groups. I mean, what if there's a Trump supporter? Let's take, all this out of it. Let's just talk politics. I mean, there are funny jokes about Trump. You don't think a Trump supporter can laugh at it? I don't know. It's really hard. I'm not going to apologize for liking Dave Chappelle. I've always liked Dave Chappelle. I've liked him for a very long time. I do find him one of our comedy greats. I do. I think that he, while some jokes may rub people the wrong way, that's the kind of comedy he does. And you don't have to listen to it, and you don't have to like it.
And I think that's really the key. It's like you should never have to apologize for liking an entertainer.
No.
If you choose to like the art, or like some of the art and not all of the art, or to like none of it, or whatever it is, that's totally your prerogative.
Yeah.
And it's the prerogative of the listener to say, well, then I don't support you. Well, if that's where you're going to plant your flag, then that's what's important to you. That's okay.
And I fully support that. Like, I mean, I would like you to still support me, but if you don't, you don't, right? No. I mean, and I'm not going to hate on you, and I'm not hating on the person that reached out to me. I think that if for them, they follow that road from Dave Chappelle through me. Okay. And you are allowed to express your opinion in that way, and I respect it. I really hope, they change their mind, of course, but it is what it is. All right, we're going to get a quick update on news. We're going to have some fun. I'm going to start off with the time traveler story. It's real quick, but they have a prediction. And then, did you see Sally Field, her interview on?
No.
Did you hear about this? Okay, so Sally Field revealed.
I read your tease, but I can't wait to hear it.
So she revealed who her worst kisser ever was. In movies, you have to kiss all kinds of people, right? So I'll tell you who it is, and then you tell me. Kim, do you have a story of the worst kiss ever, or who your worst kisser is?
My very first kiss.
Okay, good. Shave your story. Okay, so we'll tell stories. Tell me in the chat room. Who was your worst kisser? How long did you date them for? Or was it like over? Are you married to them? Maybe you're just like, they have other things going for them. I'll just deal with the bad kissing. And what makes a bad kiss? Right? Describe a bad kiss for me. So that's coming up. I'll get to the time traveling story because I've been teasing it and promising it. But first, let's do some news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
Nikki Medoro Show. I'm Kim McAllister, and this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. A coalition of railroad workers calling recently passed legislation to avoid a potential strike despicable. The Railroad Workers United group says both Republicans and Democrats opted to side with big business over working people. The group criticized President Biden and House Speaker Nancy Pelosi to push through an agreement most freight rail workers had previously voted to reject. They called out Republicans for voting against providing workers 7 days of sick leave. President Biden is looking to remove Iowa from its first in the nation status. Biden calling for the Democratic National Committee to replace Iowa with South Carolina as the first test of presidential politics for the party in 2024. That is not sitting well with Iowa Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, who tweeted, "Biden is kicking Iowa in the teeth." Police say a teenager campaigning for Democratic Senator Raphael Warnock was shot in the leg in Savannah, Georgia. The 15-year-old was at the front door of a home on Thursday when a suspect inside fired a shot through the closed door. That teenager suffered a non-life-threatening gunshot wound to the leg. Their Christmas action horror film, Violent Night, bringing in $1.1 million from Thursday previews. The David Harbour-led film expected to bring in between $10 and $12 million in its opening weekend at the domestic box office. It is projected to get beaten by Marvel Studios' Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which is predicted to make between $17 and $25 million in its fourth weekend in theaters. Have you heard about Violent Night, Nikki?
I have heard about it. I love the guy that's the main actor in it. He's in Stranger Things, and I'm blanking on his name right now. He's
David
awesome.
Harbour?
Yes, it's David Harbour.
Yeah.
He's awesome. And I remember Mark was mentioning Bad Santa, excellent Christmas movie as well. So yeah, I'm definitely going to see it. I'm not going to go to the theaters to see it though. That's not going to happen.
So every Christmas Eve, while we're wrapping presents and putting together, things for the morning,
right?
My husband and I always watch Die Hard.
Oh yeah, hands down. We always watch that at some point during the holiday season.
This movie is Die Hard, but with Santa as the badass fighting.
Yeah, they're saying it's Die Hard and Home Alone kind of mixed together in a kind of crazy cocktail.
Yeah,
so
I think it
sounds fun.
It could be worth it.
There you go.
This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz for more than 30 years. Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and businesses. If you need help with your taxes, Steve's your guy. 888-TAX-DEAL or MosLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Perfection, my friend, perfection. Okay, so let's talk a little time travel. I mentioned this yesterday when I was doing my tease. Whenever people say they came from the future, they always come with bad news. How about just stay where you are? Because we don't need any more bad news over here. But apparently, there is a time traveler. Now, this is according to The Sun. Okay. A self-proclaimed time traveler. He thinks he's traveled to the future and is coming back. His name is Agent Loca 77. The Loco sounds like it, but it's Loca 77. Says he's from the year 3002. Okay, 3002. And says there's a major event bound to happen next month. So this is the picture. Let me show you the picture real quickly. So this is the picture that the time traveler is showing from the future. He's getting kind of hammered online by people are saying, what kind of nonsense did you take a picture of? But that's a picture he claims is from the future. He says, I have no idea. One of his, it says real time. This is right before his jump. He says real time travel footage right before my jump 3002. He's made wild predictions about the future, including huge financial changes coming this month, December 2022. In another video, he says 3/24/22, so March 24th, 2022, or could it be? Yeah, I guess that's in the past, though. 3/24/22. Remember this date and watch the news for financial changes. That already passed, buddy. TikToker is not convinced, of course, saying this looks like a cheap VR game. Then there's another time traveler, Kim McAllister, because this, of course, is not the only one. Let me show you this picture of another person that says this picture is from the future. Here we go. As you all know, I am a time traveler from the year 2671. I mean, it looks like the moon to me. I don't know where they're coming from. But do you remember there was like an organization or a church that put billboards up all over? And it was like, they put this date and it was May 25th, right? Something 2027 or something like that. The only reason I remember is like my anniversary date and my wedding anniversary date. And so I was like, oh, great. Something's going to happen on ours, on our anniversary. I just don't understand why time travelers feel the need to come back as if anyone is going to believe a word they said.
Well, that was the church in the East Bay, right? And they said it was going to be the end of times. The world was going to end on a certain day. Yeah.
Yeah. May something. I think it was May 21st, 25th, whatever my anniversary
And
is.
then it didn't happen. And then like, oh, well, we messed up our calculations. It's really going to be on this date. And then nothing happened on that date. No. And then they gave a third date. And then they just kind of went away quiet.
Right. I love John. Is this the same dude who said he was from the future and said Trump would get reelected? I have no idea. But yeah, no time traveling. Is that from Facebook, Karen D? Yeah, I have no idea. Okay, so let's wet our whistle a little bit. Let's wet our whistle and talk kissing. All right.
Oh.
So Sally Field. I love her. I really, really do. So she was on that show with Andy Cohen. Look Who's Talking or something like that. Anyways, she's on, I think this is last night or the night before. And I'm going to play you the sound of it because of course I can't play the video. Here is Sally Field. Oh, do I not have it? Hold on. I got to bring it up. She's talking about, Andy Cohen is asking her about her best kiss. Oh, here it is. Okay. Here is Sally Field talking about her worst. She talked about her best kiss, but she was asked about her worst.
Marianne from New York, what's your question for Sally Field?
Sally.
Yeah.
Since you said your best on-screen kiss was with James Garner in Murphy's Romance, what would you say was the worst?
Worst screen kiss, Sally Field.
Oh boy. Shall I really name names here?
I think you should.
Please. Okay, this is going to be a shocker. Hold on, folks. Burt Reynolds.
Really?
Whoa.
But weren't you dating at the time? This is Smokey and the Bandit?
I tried to look over, just look the other way and say, well, that was just, then he, it just was not something he really did very well.
Wow. Isn't that something?
Yeah, I could go into detail, but you don't want to hear it.
I kind of do.
Yeah,
the tongue was
not totally involved. It's just a lot of drooling. It was like,
wow. All right. Here are Jessica and Carrie. Thank you for sharing, Sally. I appreciate it. I really do.
For you.
I really do. I want you to know.
I love the fact that she shared
that.
I know okay. So, but here's the thing, and tell me in the chat your worst kiss. I'll share mine. Kim, you share yours. Here's the thing though. She dated him for 5 years.
Gross.
5 years.
She had to kiss that guy for 5 years.
How long could you date somebody and they were a bad kisser? Tell me in the chat room. I mean, is it a deal breaker? Do you think you could teach them to be a better kisser? Okay, Kim. So you said that your worst kiss was your first kiss. Was
Yep.
it both of your first kisses or
I
your
don't
first
know.
kiss?
I don't even
Oh.
remember the boy's name.
Oh, okay. Oh, look
I
at
don't
you.
even remember.
You don't
It's
remember the
so long
person
ago.
that you kissed for the first time?
No, I don't. Is that make
Look
me a little
at
floozy or what?
you.
It was the summer between 8th grade and 9th grade.
Okay.
And a group of us, just neighborhood kids, used to go down to this it's like a tunnel, like a water tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd mess around down there. We'd walk through the tunnel.
Right.
We had no business being there, not have been. But we would go do it. Anyway, this boy kissed me, and when we parted, there was a string of spit.
No.
And I really wish I didn't have to remember that as my first kiss. And I don't
Well, was
remember
the
his name,
actual
but
kiss good?
I will never forget that. The actual kiss is fine, I guess, but what I remember is the spittiness of it and the tendril of spit that hung between us for a brief
Oh,
moment.
yeah.
Gross.
Oh, that's gross. So my first kiss was also my worst kiss, which makes sense. I
Yeah.
mean, I
You don't
think
know
that
what you're doing.
if you kiss more, you can kind of like pull back and start over, or maybe not. Tell me in the chat. So mine was also I was in 8th grade. And the guy ended up being my boyfriend. So to go back to the whole dating, he got better. But this was our first kiss, and it was just all tongue. Like I thought I was gonna get a hole in the back of my head for how
Ew.
hard and deep. I don't know how to say it.
That
He
sounds
was
like something else.
sticking his tongue in my mouth, and I'm
Ew.
just like, not to be too gruff, but I'm just like not even kissing. I mean, my mouth is just like open, like it was like an alien or something. It was awful. I mean, it was just awful, awful, awful kiss. He got better. I ended up dating him. But yeah, I don't know. So what makes, besides too much drool, as in it seems to be your case and Sally Field case, what makes a bad kiss? Somebody's mentioning Bert's mustache, and it must have been like kissing a goat. I've had to get used to kissing somebody because my husband has now this whole beard goatee thing. He's an
Too.
excellent kisser, but and I give him crap about it all. I'm like, you need to trim it because I don't need to be fighting with something on your face to get to your lips
Same.
because he has great lips. So that definitely that it's not a game. I'm going to kiss my husband, obviously, but it does make it difficult. Let's see. I love Kim. Thanks, Kim. Get ready, girls. Both of your girls are about to get their first kisses if they have not already.
Oh,
I don't know if you want to share this, but has your daughter ever kissed anybody? Do you know?
I don't think so, but
I
she
don't
hasn't
think so
told me if
either.
she has.
I straight up
Yeah.
ask my daughter all the time. I'm like, have you kissed anybody? She's like, no. And I don't know how much she wants to tell her old mom whether or not she's kissed anybody, but I don't think so. Because with COVID and everything, I always ask myself, when are you going to kiss anybody? Where are you going to go kiss somebody? But I guess
Right.
they can find a tunnel like you did and go down there and mess around
God, what
in the
a
water. Huh? What'd you say?
what a delinquent I
I
was.
know. What a
Hanging out in the
delinquent.
tunnel. Yeah.
Oh, here we go. The yoga room of Hampshire. Bad breath, 100%. Yeah. Have I ever kissed anybody? No. I mean, I've got some stories that are not appropriate of like just people misbehaving. Like, what the hell are you doing? Chris Allen, first, 5th grade, kind of sweet looking back on it. Worst as an ex as an adult was overly aggressive. Felt like she was trying to swallow my soul.
No.
Yeah. I mean, now a nice kiss is like slow. Your lips aren't overly wet, right? Definitely have to have good breath. I mean, if you have bad breath, Karen D wrote in, that's why I used to chew gum as a teen. When that tongue thing happened, you try that, you're going to get gum. Oh, you ever like kiss somebody and their gum ended up in your mouth? Is that what you're saying, Karen? Because that's pretty gross. That's totally gross. Let's see. Nick. All right. So, okay. I'm not going to read that out. All right. Nope. Not going to read it. You can read
Nope.
You can read it on the
Nope.
screen if you want to, but
Nope,
yeah,
nope, nope.
That is good advice both ways. Thank you for that. Thank you for that giggle. Although I don't want to be, knocked off YouTube for saying, although I probably could say it, but I'm not going to. Jack in the Box breath. Never again. Ooh, what did they eat? Like a taco? They always say like garlic and things like that. I don't know. But yeah, too slobbery, too much spit. I
And
should
too
do a
forceful.
Calvin, how to kiss video on YouTube. That's gonna look funny. How do you teach
No.
somebody to kiss unless you're kissing them yourself? I mean, that's just not gonna
Yeah.
happen.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to show people how to kiss. And they always have those coming of age movies or those teen movies where they like kiss on their hands. Joe Box really liked this cheerleader in school who was super cute. Finally got to make out with her, and she had really chapped lips. WTF, it was like kissing 100 grit. Awful. Oh, that sucks. As someone who's like addicted to chapstick, but if I find myself sick or dehydrated, my lips get dried out, that's the first thing. I would always want to just you got to keep chapstick on you, especially when you're at that age where you don't know if you're going to get a kiss or not. The remedy to everything is you both have extra garlic on your pizza. Yeah, my husband and I do that. If we're going to eat something stinky, you might as well both eat it. Yeah, everybody read all the comments in there. I absolutely love them. So thank you for those stories. Now, speaking of kissing and telling, Kim, have you been following the Good Morning America drama?
No.
Oh, okay. So obviously, I mean, we're busy in the morning. I don't watch GMA. My mom loves Good Morning America. So they have something called, I think it's called GMA 3 or something with 3. And it's 3 people. And 2 of the people, Amy Robach and TJ Holmes, have started a love affair. Now, the scandal, of course, is I don't know, they still are married. So let me
they're
show you.
having an affair?
Okay, so it's come out. Let me show you a picture because I bet you'll probably know them. So here they are. That's Amy Robach, obviously, on the left, and TJ Holmes on the right. Very, very attractive man. So apparently, they were doing a marathon together. They were training for a marathon. I'm assuming it was like the New York City Marathon or something. And yeah, the New York City Half Marathon. They were both training for it, and I guess it was a feature on GMA that they were following along. So you have to train for it. I mean, it's a marathon. Here they are at the end of the marathon, hugging. Apparently, they got pretty cozy. And so I don't know. It must have been for months. Some people are thinking one of their spouses tipped them off. Do you know who Amy Robach is or was married to? And I'm going to show you a picture. Now, I know my girls will know exactly who this guy is, but I'm wondering if you do. Do you know who that is?
No.
That's Andrew Shue. He was on the original Melrose Place.
Yes.
Yes.
Doesn't even look like Andrew Shue anymore.
Yes, that's him. That's who
okay.
she was married to. This is TJ Holmes' wife. Well, I don't know if it's an ex-wife. Oh, did I not have the? Oh, here it is. Here it is. Marilee, I think her name is. Yeah, Marilee. So that's their significant others that they were with, but somebody's been following them around. This is TJ Holmes and Amy Robach apparently in some car holding hands. And yeah, so apparently they've been caught. Now, some are saying they were about to announce Amy and Andrew Shue have sold their apartment or their home together. And I guess they were preparing to make an announcement and to come out together as a couple, but that some paparazzi was following them around and kind of broke the news to everybody. Really awkward start, I guess. The first day after the news broke, TJ had to do that show where there's supposed to be 3 people by himself. And it was just like, yeah, they're on assignment. And then they all came back this morning, I believe. All 3 of them didn't obviously address it. Now, some are saying that one, they're separated from their spouses, perhaps, but maybe this may have started and overlapped a bit. But because they're equals on the show, that there shouldn't be anything wrong with it at work. You've never dated anybody in the business, have you?
Nope. Mm-mm.
Yeah, I've never dated. I thank God. I don't know how people, especially in media, date other media people. I don't understand it. Anybody ever date anybody they work with? Did it get sloppy? Did it get uncomfortable? Because that's the only thing that I would think is, what if it doesn't work out? Now you have to
Yeah.
sit next to somebody. So they're on the same kind of GMA feature, that 3 thing. If they don't work out, who's going to give up the gig, or are they just going to be big people about it? I don't think they're going to be big people about it. That's
And
going
what
to be a problem.
about, what does Great America do? I mean, I think, isn't there some type of clause usually in the big broadcasting contracts talking about, ethical behavior, and if you have behavior that kind of makes the company look bad? Well, if they're both a bunch of cheaters and getting together,
Yeah.
that's kind of, was Great
Yeah.
Good Morning America supporting, infidelity,
Adulterers,
marital
I'm sure
infidelity?
that they
Yeah.
do every day. I mean,
Well,
you
yeah.
can't fire somebody for having an affair on their spouse, right?
I guess you probably could if it goes against the morality clause in their contract.
I mean,
You
we
better
don't. What
believe
is
it.
it? Dave Ramsey, the finance guy. I've listened to him for a very long time. Dave Ramsey, I think, fired people because there's some sort of morality clause to work for his company. But I don't think the GMA cares about that. And because they're equals, I don't think there's like the
One's not supervising.
right. Not like, oh, you're using your power against me and that sort of thing. I
It
would
just
just
makes
say,
the whole thing awkward.
yeah, exactly. I absolutely think that it makes it pretty awkward. And again, I would say you're jeopardizing possibly the livelihood of this show, because if it doesn't work out, then we might be out a popular host. So we'll see. We'll see how that whole thing plays out. We have a few minutes. I want to get into some other things to watch, because you were talking about Violent Night. One thing that I just finished watching, and I don't know if you watched it, Kim. Are you watching Wednesday on Netflix, the Addams Family thing?
No, I'm embroiled in the first season of Game of Thrones.
Oh, well, good, because someone from Game of Thrones is on it. So here, let me show you. And I don't know how far are you into Game of Thrones?
They're starving in the desert. There's dragons and
Khaleesi, I mean, so you got Jason
yeah,
Momoa right now. Is that what you're on? Okay. I don't
he
know.
croaked.
Is Brianna Tarth at the very beginning? Anyways, do you know this woman? Do you recognize her? So I don't know
No.
if you've gotten into it yet. Okay, so this woman is Gwendolyn Christie. She has a huge role in Game of Thrones. She plays Brienne of Tarth, and she's excellent in it. But she also has a huge role in Wednesday. She's the dean of the school or whatever, and she was talking about how she loved this role because she had never felt beautiful in a role before, because she was playing in Game of Thrones. She kind of plays this badass chick, but kind of taken more for a manly type of character. She said, it's the first time I've ever felt, talking about being on Wednesday, it's the first time I've ever felt beautiful on screen. I cannot express my extreme gratitude more heartily to Tim and Colleen and our hair and makeup team. Colleen Atwood is rightfully a legend, and what she does is close to witchcraft in terms of transformation. It is an honor of my life to work with Colleen and to work with Tim. Tim Burton, of course, is behind Wednesday, although he doesn't direct it. But yeah, of course, she plays Sir Brienne of Tarth in Game of Thrones, and Captain Phasma in Star Wars. Forgive me, Star Wars people. Neither role allowed for much femininity, and the character of Brienne was explicitly described in the original Song of Ice and Fire novels as unattractive. Christie's most recent role as Lucifer in The Sandman was much more flattering, but still androgynous. And so this is the first time she said that she felt beautiful, and I love it for her. And she plays excellent. If you've watched Wednesday, it's really fun. A few more things about Wednesday that have come out. Thing, Thing is the hand that walks around. Da, 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 da.
Yeah.
They're showing some of the behind the scenes type of stuff. That's the actor, I guess you could use, that plays him. So he has his hand,
it's funny,
attaches to the hand. That's being exhausting. And he's like rolling around like all these things because he's pretty cool. But anyways, I highly recommend Wednesday. If anybody has watched it, it's really, really good. I loved her Eric too in Game of Thrones. She was one of my favorite. And yes, she is beautiful. But I think when you have to play a character, how weird does it have to be to go for a role and it's like unattractive? You're like, I guess I could play that. Yeah. Let me show the picture again, because it is quite the transformation. She's gorgeous, and she does it, and she is really tall. I mean, in Game of Thrones, the reason she was perfect for the role is she is I don't know how how tall she is. Does anyone want to tell me in the chat room? Google it for me. Gwendolyn Christie, how tall? Because she's extremely tall. And I believe the character probably was also wearing some sort of heel and makes her even taller. So she was great. I highly recommend Wednesday. And then finally, Emancipation is out today. That's the one we were talking about with Will Smith. One of the producers behind the film, let me bring up this picture. Joey McFarland is one of the producers. So I guess he was on the red carpet. He's getting criticized because he was carrying the photo of the man that Emancipation is based on. His nickname, I mean, the name that he's known by in this picture is Whipped Peter. And you'll know the photo. This is the photo.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And so this is the role that Will Smith plays in this movie. Now, apparently, the producer was being criticized for walking with the photo. I don't know if it's necessarily, they say it was in poor taste to be carrying the photo. One person said, why do you own the photograph? They say, why did you bring it to a movie premiere if the intent is to preserve it respectfully? You wanted a piece of Peter here. You collect slave memorabilia that will be donated upon your death. What do you do with it in the meantime? So many questions, because apparently this is the picture.
Well, look, I probably wouldn't have seen Emancipation. Maybe I would have. I don't know. But I would never have seen this photo if he hadn't carried it there and we weren't showing it now. And so what a way to remember and make sure that we always, understand our history and where we came from and don't forget how we treated people. I feel like that message is more important than whatever weirdness he has it for,
Right. And I agree. But I guess people are just owning this kind of slave memorabilia. People are saying it's like you're owning these slaves, and it doesn't sit right with them, which again, people are entitled to their opinion. You can stream apparently this movie on Apple Plus. So I didn't know that. So I might watch it this weekend and I'll let you know what I think about it. Again, also begs the question of whether we should even watch it because Will Smith is in it. I'm not going to stop watching Will Smith stuff because he slapped Chris Rock.
No.
I don't think it. We have a lot of people commenting. April called in or texted in 6'3". Gwendolyn is, that's tall. 6'3". That's one big, tall woman. And she played an excellent role in Game of Thrones. And she was excellent in Wednesday. So go and watch it. Okay, so I want to say a big thank you to everybody. Please click the thumbs up button right below our video right here. And someone put something about White Lotus. I'm finishing it. Did it have the finale? Because I love it. Yes. So I still have to catch up on White Lotus. Is the finale this Sunday? Excellent show. Click the thumbs up. It supports our show. If you can, please become a monthly subscriber to our show. It keeps the consistency of money coming into us so we know we can continue the show. Find a link to our Patreon at thenikkimedoroshow.com. That is thenikkimedoroshow.com. And we absolutely love all of you for doing that. Again, if you want to reach out to me with a Friday food segment, please do that. We tasted Pilk. I gave it 2 thumbs up. And a big thank you to Pamela Kirby, $9.99 super sticker. Thank you so much. Andreas has been so supportive. Last minute drive for the show, $20. He also said, keep it going, girls. If everyone agreed with you, then you wouldn't be a true and honest talk show. I certainly don't agree with you all on all issues, but neither do I agree with my wife. Andreas, I adore you. Thank you so much for all the donations. You have been very, very generous. So have everybody in the super chat. Thank you. And we'll talk again on Friday. Until then, have a fabulous, fabulous weekend.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. You're proud, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.